the more Americans find to dislike. A new poll this morning from CNN found a majority of Americans against the bill. Why? The bill provides crumbs and tax hikes for middle-class families in this country and a Christmas gift to major corporations and billionaire investors. So let me be clear. This tax bill will be an anchor around the ankles of every Republican. If they haven't learned it yet, they're going to learn it next November. Republicans will rue the day they pass this bill, and the American people will never let them forget it. What has been sold as a job creator and wage booster will, of course, do little of either, as companies are already initiating stock buybacks worth hundreds of millions of dollars instead of hiring more workers and raising wages. Ultimately, the Republicans have taken what they call a once-in-a-generation opportunity on tax reform and squandered it on corporate welfare and tax cuts for the rich. According to the Tax Policy Center, the top 1% of earners in our country get 83% of the benefits. The top 1% get 83% of the benefits. What about the other 99% of us? The raw numbers are staggering. It's an indictment of the Republican tax plan. It's an indictment of where the Republican Party is headed, into the arms of their billionaire paymasters. The numbers reveal what this bill truly is, a tax scam that will rob middle-class families to pay for corporate tax breaks. Senator Wyden.
Thank you, Leader Schumer.
So here it is Friday night, and I just want to give you an idea of how the Republican leadership thinks we're supposed to make laws in the United States Senate. They have just released the tax bill. It is about 500 pages. And they want us to vote on this thing in about an hour. An hour. I spent more than an hour making a decision about the refrigerator that we recently bought. But the Republicans think that they can cram through a tax bill that will affect every family in America, that will touch every business in America, and they can do it by just jamming through a bunch of paper and telling everybody to go vote on it. Here's what else they've done. They're sending around their edits as we speak. Edits. So let me just give you one here. Application described in, paragraph, I'll bet that's paragraph. 2A shall be taken into account notably during the 6 taxable period beginning W/something, and then it's cut off at the bottom. And the Republicans think that's how you make tax policy late on a Friday night. Don't let anybody read it. Just cram through what you want to cram through. And why? Because they know they've got what they mostly need in here, and that's the payoff to the big Republican donors. And whatever else it does to hardworking families, whatever else it does to this economy, they don't care. They just want to vote this thing through and pay off their donors. This isn't right. This is not how America should be making laws. And shame on the Republicans.
This is the tax bill. See how thick it is? That's what it looks like.
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, as amended, is passed.
I just got the tax bill 25 minutes ago. I want you to take a look at this, folks. This is your government at work. Here's the bill as it's written. Here's the modifications that are in it. I can read one word. It's called add this language. Can you tell me what that word is? If you can, you got better eyes than me. This is unbelievable.
You know, since this is theater, and that's all this is today, is theater. This is, as we started out the conversation, the oldest continuous committee in the United States Congress. And without a hearing, you're going to proceed with the great charade. Mr. Bartold, I'd like to call the head of the Department of Revenue Services from the state of Connecticut. Have you heard from him?
I have not received a phone call.
Has he been called as an expert witness? No, he hasn't been called as an expert witness. And the transfer that's going to take place, I'll take Lee Zeldin's comments about the transfer of wealth from one region of the country to the other on the backs of hardworking people of the middle class. You talk about taxing success. All of our working professionals, whether you're a machinist or a teacher, and in the case of a teacher, if they reach into their pocket to pay for their students, you get rid of that. In Congress, many would argue the most prestigious, and members on this side of the aisle aren't even entitled to bring an expert witness on any aspect of the tax code that affects 100% of our economy. 100% of the economy is impacted. And people in my state, in the middle class, are going to get a tax increase. A tax increase thanks to the myriad of lists of things that you've decided behind closed doors that they, because they make itemized deductions, will no longer have. They'll no longer have the state and local tax deduction. $4,000 eliminated from the personal exemption. Medical expenses, no longer. Eliminates deductions for student loans and adoption and teacher education for the classroom and employer-provided education assistance. Why? Because they've made a decision behind closed doors, not with any experts or testimony, but they've made the decision that this is the way it's going to be. And the vote will proceed like that in the committee. Check me if I'm wrong on this. It's going to be 24-16 right down the line, all the way until they can get this to the floor of the House. And then on the floor of the House, they'll continue to perpetuate this great myth that somehow we went through any kind of regular order or there was any bipartisanship that was alluded to. These are honorable people. This is not an honorable time or day for this committee or for democracy in America. Not a single hearing or a single expert witness.
And we're joined now by Vermont Independent Senator Bernie Sanders. He's in Burlington. Welcome, Senator. This looks like it's going to get passed through the Senate and the House and signed by the president, this tax cut bill. Is there anything more that opponents like you could have done to stop this?
Well, I think we did everything that we could. But at the end of the day, what you had is people like Mr. Mnuchin, who himself is worth $300 or $400 million. The President of the United States, who is worth several billion dollars. As you mentioned, some 4,000 or 5,000 lobbyists doing everything that they could to write a bill which significantly benefits the wealthiest people in this country and the largest corporations. The latest analysis that we have seen suggests that 72% of the benefits go to the top 5%. My guess is that 60% of the benefits will go to the top 1%. And at the end of the decade, because the benefits for the middle class are temporary, while the corporate benefits are permanent, at the end of the decade, over half of the middle class will be paying more in taxes. What we are seeing here is a real massive attack on the middle class. And what I worry very much, John, is that if you listen to what the House, Paul Ryan, is talking about, what he is saying is that as a result of this bill, the deficit will go up by $1.4 trillion. And what Ryan, in my view, will come back with are massive cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid in order to offset that deficit.
Let me add.
So massive tax breaks for the rich, cuts to Social Security. This is a grossly unfair tax bill.
I want to get to the entitlements in just a moment, but on that.
In the Motor City, I'm reunited with Trump voting auto workers talking taxes.
How many of you like the tax plan that you're hearing?
Things start slow.
I got one.
I guess it's okay for, it's not a huge savings, but it's
It's a savings.
It's a savings. Everyone's going to get a
Personally, going to be a good
I don't know about me personally, but for the country as a whole, it's going to be a good thing.
I agree.
Personally, I believe it's going to be good too.
What do you think you save?
I'm going to say between probably $1,000, maybe $2,000 a year.
That might sound okay, but
It's not a big thing when you spread it over a year.
No. Doesn't move the needle.
I remind them what candidate Trump promised, reading from his so-called contract with Americans.
A middle-class family with 2 children will get a 35% tax cut. That is not what you're getting.
I don't think they're going to achieve that at all.
The others disagree, citing all kinds of numbers, especially the standard family deduction, which is expected to double.
That's huge. Actually huge.
Amy, David's wife, isn't an auto worker. She's a teacher. And she didn't vote for Trump. She doesn't like the tax plan, worrying for those who aren't rich or even middle class.
Who I believe are going to be hit hardest with this too. I think we're kind of ignoring that population.
These factory workers all realize the companies they work for will benefit the most, and that's okay by them.
I'm hoping in good faith that they use that monies to reinvest in their people, to hire more people, to expand their businesses.
And so the thinking is if the company does better, you all will do better.
It brings everybody up.
Everybody.
It does, from the bottom up.
Virgil, you believe that?
I believe that strongly, yes.
What about the deficit, I ask, which experts say under this plan will balloon by at least $1 trillion or more.
Is this fiscally responsible?
Maybe not short term, but I'm hoping in long term.
You're taking a risk.
I sure am. I took a risk when I voted for Donald Trump.
That exchange led to one last question, which was, how do the men feel about Trump? And they said, well, they wish that he wouldn't tweet so much. You hear that a lot. They also said they'd like him to be more of a uniter and less of a divider, but they say it's not all just him. They blame the country as a whole as being more partisan and polarized. But every man said they support Trump even more strongly today than they did when they voted for him.